Now, the dust has barely settled on Charlie Kirk's death, and the usual suspects, the #BeKind Brigade, have already shown their true colours.
We got Charlie and the neck. We got Charlie and the neck.
The president-elect of the Oxford Union appeared to celebrate the murder of Charlie Kirk. George Floyd, who met Kirk during a debate on toxic masculinity earlier this year, made the comments on WhatsApp and Instagram. He said, "We got Charlie shot. Let's effing go." He's since, of course, apologised, and the Oxford Union has condemned the comments too, but there are reports that the university itself will not be taking action due to its free speech policies. Imagine if he'd been right-wing. It's not about free speech, it's about humanity, which he clearly has none of. Former Sky News presenter Adam Bolton wrote it on social media today. Charlie Kirk held racist and sexist views and advocated violence against some opponents. That puts him to the extreme right of any party holding elected office in the UK. You may like him, but you don't try to claim that he fits in the Overton window of political discourse in this country. He was joined by former BBC presenter turned lefty podcaster Lewis Goodall.
So just to emphasise, again, his murder is appalling, but the idea that he was murdered for espousing some sort of common sense, mainstream set of views that others dared not say is nonsense.
But what is really so outrageous about Charlie Kirk's views?
Said, wives, submit to your husbands, as it says repeatedly. But the second part is also really important. We as husbands must be willing to sacrifice ourselves for our wives as Christ died for the church. That means we must be willing to die for our wives.
What's wrong with that? I'd want my partner to die for me. They tried to smear him as a sexist, but he literally said he would die for his wife.
UK is very important to talk about, not just because what's happening in the UK, but also the ramifications here is the UK culturally felt like America before Donald Trump went down the golden escalator. They're in the abyss, but culturally, there is this kind of silent, are we allowed to say this? Are we allowed to challenge this? Are we allowed to talk about this? Are we allowed to question this?
He's right. Look at Lucy Connolly, Graham Linehan. Free speech is dead in the UK. What's so wrong about saying that?
I just want to say I'm a transgender male. What age should kids be able to get things like hormone therapy?
First of all, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going to have an opinion that very few people will ever tell you, which is I want you to be very cautious putting drugs into your system in the pursuit of changing your body. Mm-hmm. I instead encourage you to work on what's going on in your brain first. I think what you need first and foremost is just a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Just someone that is going to listen to what you've gone through, listen to what else is going on. My prayer for you, and again, very few people will say this, I actually want to see you be comfortable in how you were born. Yeah.
Contrary to what the left want you to believe, he did treat trans people with dignity, respect, and most of all, common sense.
I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
Well, he's right, isn't he? There was a time when every organisation wanted a token black face. That's what created this narrative. I've lost count of the number of times I've been told that I'm only here because I'm black, the diversity hire. Forget my 30 years of journalistic experience or the fact that I had to prove my worth. The #BeKind Brigade were all over George Floyd. It was obviously wrong of the police to kill him, but he was a convicted felon. The left had plenty of compassion for Floyd, but not for Charlie Kirk, who was honest about his feelings and also prepared to be proven wrong. Right, well, let's take our first question. It's from Mark. Mark.
Hi, I'm just wondering any specific actions that you would have our colleges and universities take to try and stop our kids being brainwashed from some of these extremist views. I've got a daughter going to university very shortly, actually, and it terrifies me that she's going to get in with the wrong crowd and generate and come away with some really extremist views. And what specific actions, I think, can we take to stop that?
Can I ask you, what do you mean by extremist views? What do you think she might come away with that you're worried about?
The view that just because you say something that somebody disagrees with, you deserve to be killed.
Yeah, and I mean, it's insane, by the way, that we're even having this conversation, because it actually ties into what I was saying in the last part about resilience and mental health. And we have tried to legislate and protect young people from hearing things they don't like or any kind of adversity, thinking we're doing them a favour, when in actual fact what we're doing is we're not giving them any resilience, but we're also making people then far less able to tolerate things that they disagree with.
Absolutely, wrapping them up in cotton wool. There's been plenty of instances that I've heard of where certain speakers have been cancelled when they go to do university. Katie Hopkins, I think, was one of them. And that seems crazy to me. You get somebody, you debate them, you find the views, you find common balance.
And if
why
they're so
aren't we
awful,
doing that?
prove them wrong. So, you know, come up with evidence and prove them wrong. And I didn't agree with everything that Charlie Kirk said. And actually, there's been a lot of people saying, you know, that's so performative to say that after his horrific death. But I think there's no greater compliment than to say that you really admired and loved watching him debate, yet not necessarily agree with every single thing he said. Because that's the key, is we're not going to solve all this unless we all talk.
What can we do about it?
One thing, sir. She's your daughter.
Yes.
Have faith in her. She'll be okay.
That you
brought her up
well enough.
You taught her. You brought her up. She'll be fine. The amount of times I hear this, and yes, I know some children come out of university like that. I have friends in a similar position as you. But there's have faith. Have faith in them. They're all right. And they'll come back. You can argue with them, debate with them. They'll have different points of view. That's fine. But have faith in them.
And actually listen to what you said earlier about, you know, tell her to read everything, and even the things she doesn't agree with. Talk to the people she doesn't agree with.
That is the point of the university. That's why it's called a university. It's to give you a universal view, so that you hear everything, you read everything, you learn how to criticise what you are being told.
But how is that when they're getting shut down? When speakers like Katie Hopkins and others are getting sort of pressurised to stay away. They're not hearing all sides of the debate. They only hear the radicalised versions of it, and it drives them to more extremist views.
Charlie Kirk was able to speak at the Oxford
We need more
Society.
Charlie Kirks.
And we need that debate. But the point is, the whole structure of the university system is to lead people to be able to think for themselves.
Didn't your government get rid of the piece of legislation that was going to guarantee freedom of speech? Yeah. The Tories brought in a piece of legislation to guarantee freedom of speech at universities, and the Labour government dropped it. It was coming through and you dropped it.
Yeah, I think it's really dangerous, and I agree with you, Barry. Universities should be somewhere you can hear every view and you can debate things, but it seems to have become, it is difficult for young people to stand up and say something different to what their
much easier to come out gay than come out on the right.
Teachers, it is, and I think certainly my school. I went to a girls' grammar school in Wolverhampton. When I was standing as a Conservative candidate in 2019, somebody just put on the internet, "Oh, one of our old girls is standing," and it was just like left wing, left wing, left wing. Nobody put, "Oh yes, I vote Conservative." Nobody, because that school you can talk about, you know, worthy things. You can talk about slave reparations. You can have strong opinions on everything. But when you've got universities more interested in pulling down statues rather than educating everyone about those statues, and yes...
Though, again, have hope and have faith. During the Wellingborough by-election last year, all the candidates, apart from the Reform candidate, were invited by the politics department at Wellingborough School to speak to the sixth formers, because some of the sixth formers were voting. And we got in touch and they said, "No, we're not going to have a reform, you're ghastly." And then the sixth form society itself got in touch and said, "We want to hear from you."
Good for them.
And at which point the teacher had to surrender. So have faith.
Sadly, we have had a class of teachers who decide they're going to teach children what to think, not how to think. And Charlie Kirk having ideas. I didn't agree with everything he said, but he was very eloquent and he took the Bible very literally. I know a lot of Catholics are finding it very refreshing to have someone speaking about pro-life and speaking about traditional marriage. It's got me thinking, and I would rather listen, even if it's Barry, if it's...
even if it's Barry. That's the worst thing you could hear, is basically, that's your example.
Barry on probably a lot of things, but I'm always happy to hear why he thinks what he thinks, and I think that is what I would like to get back to.
I think a lot of the problem as well is the educators. So, I mean, you had this president-elect of the Oxford Union almost celebrating the fact that somebody's died. I mean, you know, without even by your leave thinking that actually that might be a bit inappropriate. However, it doesn't matter what your political view is, it's very bad to celebrate somebody's death.
Yeah, I watched him debate
these are the people teaching at
No, he's a student. He's the president-elect.
However, he has apologised, and I defend someone's right to not have their life ruined if they say something stupid and apologise afterwards, because I think it's important that we try and show the tolerance and understanding that is perhaps not always reciprocated.
I agree with you.
But can I also just very quickly say, it also starts with you, sir. When I was learning politics at college and uni, I had a teacher he couldn't have been more left-wing, but because at home I had a mother and father who had started with nothing, and under Thatcher started their own businesses from scratch with no help whatsoever, and had that sort of free market, small business thinking, I found myself the lone voice in those classes arguing Thatcherism to my politics teacher, and that came from them. It will come from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, just on his note about what he was saying about diversity hires and things like that, I agree with him, because I've seen many people who aren't that talented, but they have been picked because of the colour of their skin. And when I was younger, there was always they'd pick one person who was black, and if they picked the black person, I was never going to get in, because I literally would have to wait for that person to die or move on before there'd be a space, because they'd reached their so-called quota. So for me, the whole diversity thing is actually the worst thing ever. And then if you are talented, everyone says, oh, you're only there because you're black, which is terrible. So, so from my perspective, even, as a woman of colour, I just look at that and think, I just want to be picked because I'm good.
Yeah, you're the best for the job.